Hello, first graders. Today is May 11th, 2020. It is Monday. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we're going to have a virtual field trip, which means it'll be through Zoom at 1 o'clock to a dairy farm. And we're going to meet some people who work with cows and some people who make milk. And these are the farmers who provide the service of giving us milk. So, to get ready for our trip, what we're going to do is we're going to read the story called From the Dairy Farm to You. As we're reading the story, what I want us to do is I want us to pay attention to what is the story teaching you about, or what is some key details that you'll hear in the story. All right, so let's watch and find out.
From Dairy Farm to You.
How does milk get from the farm to you? First, the cows must be milked. Most dairy farmers milk the cows using special machines inside a dairy barn. The milk is pumped into a holding tank. The tank is cold, so the milk stays fresh.
On many dairy farms, cows are milked twice a day.
Next, the milk is pumped into a tank truck. The truck hauls the milk to a processing plant. There, the milk is pasteurized or treated to make it safe to drink. It is heated until it is very hot, then quickly cooled. This kills any bad germs in the milk. After that, the milk goes into bottles and cartons that have a date on them. The date tells how long the milk will stay fresh. Then the cartons are sent on their way. Milk is a good. The people who stack the cartons and the truck driver who hauls them to stores provide a service.
A date stamped on every bottle or carton tells how long the milk will stay fresh.
At last, the milk arrives at the store. Workers place the milk inside large refrigerators to keep it cold. Finally, you and your family buy the milk and take it home. As you enjoy a cold glass of milk, think about its journey from the dairy farm to you.
All right, first graders. So what is something that we learned about, or what is the story mostly about? This story was mostly about This story was mostly about dairy farms. This story was mostly about milk. But can we build on? What did you learn about? Good. I heard somebody say, I learned that this story was about how does milk get from the farm to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my highlighter and I'm going to highlight the sentence so that way it tells me what is this story about. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look in our packet for the page that says From Dairy Farm to You. It looks like this. And I will do some of it with you. All right. As always, be safe, be kind, wash your hands. See you in the next video. Love you guys. Hello, first graders. So we just finished reading the story called From Dairy Farm to You. And now what we're going to do is we're going to find this page in our packet. It has a magnifying glass and a mouth here and here. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to be scavenger hunting for some text features in our story. So the author wants us to find bold print. Bold print looks like this. Do we see anything that looks like that in our story? I don't see anything that looks like that in our story on this page. Let's look in this page. Do we see anything there? No, we don't. So what I'm going to do is, we're going to skip that one. What about photographs? Do we see photographs in our story? I see one here, and I see one here. What about on this page? Do I see one here? I also see one here. So it does have photographs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an X there. So I know that I found photographs in the story. Next one is insets. And insets is something we haven't heard yet, but they are basically pictures like this one inside of a bigger picture like this one. This is an inset because it is a smaller picture and a bigger picture. It's also zooming in what this picture is trying to show you. I think of it as like a caption. But do we see insets here and here? What about on this page? Do we see insets here and here? That is true. So let's put an X there so as to tell the author we found that. What about facts? Did we hear any facts in the story? Yes, we did. We found facts about how milk is made and how it comes to our house. Oh, this is my favorite one. Captions. Do we see any captions in our story? So remember, captions are words underneath a picture that tells you more about the picture. So do we see captions on this page? We also see captions here. We also saw captions on the second page. So I'm going to put an X to let the author know that I found captions. Boop. What about index? Did we hear anything about index when we were reading that story? Did we see anything about page numbers? No, we did not. All right, so the next thing on this page says, what do you think the author's purpose is for the selection and why? So this question is asking you, why do you think the author wrote the story? I can think that this story is about, you can also copy the sentence. I think the author wants to teach us about how milk travels from the dairy farm to our homes. I think the author wants to teach us about how milk travels from the dairy farm to our homes. Remember, if I go too fast, you can always pause the video. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple seconds to copy. All right, and then the next one, it asks you, what genre is From Dairy Farm to You? So is it fiction or nonfiction, and how do you know? And here I wrote the sentence for you. The genre is nonfiction because it is a teaching story. All right, so I'm going to first graders. So what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on this part of the worksheet, and the directions say use the flowchart to recall the steps that milk goes through to get to our homes. So what we're going to do is we're going to look through our story From Dairy Farm to You, and we're going to look for signal words. So signal words are words like first, next, then, after, last, and finally. So as we're reading, we're going to pay attention to those words because that's going to give us a clue on what the steps are and how the milk gets to our houses. All right, so let's read starting from here.
From Dairy Farm to You.
How does milk get from the farm to you? First,
Whoa. I just heard the word first. I think that's one of our signal words. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pay attention to what the author is saying right now, because that is a signal word, and remember that is something we're paying attention to.
First, the cows must be milked. Most dairy farmers milk the cows using special machines inside a dairy barn. The milk is pumped into a holding tank. The tank is cold, so the milk stays fresh.
So what did we just hear? We heard the word first, which is a signal word that we were paying attention to. So this sentence here said, first, the cows must be milked. Wow. So I believe that is step number 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the number 1 right here. And that is going to tell me that this is step number 1. And that's also going to tell me that this sentence here, I'm going to copy in box number 1. Okay. All right. Let's look at this page. Remember, we're paying attention to signal words like next, then, after, last, finally.
Next, the milk is pumped into a tank truck. The truck hauls the milk to a processing plant. There, the milk is pasteurized or treated to make it safe to drink. It is heated until it is very hot, then quickly cooled. This kills any bad germs in the milk.
So I heard a signal word here. I heard the word next. So let's find that in our text here. Yep, I see the word next. And it says, next, the milk is pumped into a tank truck. And that tells me what happens after the cows have been milked. So I'm going to put the number 2 here because that is the second step. Okay. All right, so I'm going to turn the page. Give me a minute. I'm also going to clear this so it gets a little bit less confusing. Remember, if I go too fast, you could always pause the video. But I'm going to erase my numbers in a second. All right, so let's look at the next page. Remember, we're paying attention to after, words like after, last, and finally. Okay?
After that, the milk goes into bottles and cartons that have a date on them. The date tells how long the milk will stay fresh. Then the cartons are sent on their way. Milk is a good. The people who stack the cartons and the truck driver who hauls them to stores provide a service.
So I'm going to pause right there because I heard a signal word. I heard the word after. Let's find that in our text. Give you a couple seconds to find it. All right, did you find it right here? Good job. So it says after that, the milk goes into bottles and cartons that have a date on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the number 3 here. Okay. All right, so what I want you to do now is look in your text and look for those signal words and pause the video to help them find them, and then unpause them to make sure you got them correct. All right, welcome back. Let's see if you found them. If you did, give yourself a pat on the back. And remember, copy these in this work.